Hey guys, welcome to the Gut Girls podcast. Today it is just me, Angela, flying solo as Diana is out of town. But I thought, what actually a good opportunity to take this time and kind of put together a hot topic, Gut Girls podcast, maybe about like what you're hearing versus what's actually true. Because clinically, I get a lot of questions and hot topics that people are seeing on social media that, quite frankly, when I hear about them, I'm left speechless because I'm like, okay, let's really dive into that. It may be a hot topic on social media, or maybe your friend got results with this. But if you're the person who maybe right now, let's say, for example, let's just dive into it, has tried the probiotic and you're not getting better, maybe you're actually getting worse. Or if you are someone who's recently been put on Miralax and you're wondering why, like, what is this going to do for me? Or maybe you're the person who's been put on Miralax for a chronic amount of time and you're not getting results. And quite frankly, you want to know what other options are out there. Let's talk about it. Let's also dive in today. I thought maybe a topic about gut health and brain health, a hot topic like Alzheimer's, and what we can do, since it's such a complex topic, to maybe get a little bit ahead and educated on what we can be doing now before things just, quite frankly, are out of our control. So let's dive into some of these hot topics. I hope you will join me. And actually, let's get started with the probiotics. A lot of people reach out to me and they're sending me pictures about, hey, what do you think about this probiotic? Whether it's a seed probiotic or some people call them a spore-based probiotic. Let's talk about those. So things like seed probiotics, they're basically spore-based probiotics. And of all the things that you're seeing on Instagram or whatever social media platform you choose, let's dive into the truth about what they are. So what are seed probiotics? They are spore-based probiotics, and they're not bad probiotics. In fact, I use spore-based probiotics a lot when it comes to looking at people's GI map stool test and helping them understand what their gut needs at that time in that season. And so they can actually serve you well. I think also what people mostly get bad information on about probiotics, something like a spore-based probiotic, is when to use it and who they really serve. So let me explain how the gut works, because that might help us understand why some probiotics work and some don't. So I like to think about it as like a hose, which is really what it is. It's a hose from one end from your mouth all the way to the end. And if there's a kink in that hose in any place, think of that, it actually represents your ecosystem, the environment inside your body. If there's a kink in that hose, honestly, guys, adding more fuel, like more probiotics, is not necessarily going to help. Now you can understand if there's a kink in the hose and I'm just adding more probiotics to the situation, it could actually make the gut worse. And so really, when you're talking about probiotics, you want to kind of think of a bigger picture. So that would be things like, think about someone's stomach acid. And some of you may not even know what that is, but I'm sure you all have heard about pH balance. So think of your pH balance. If that is off, adding more probiotics is not always the right answer. Really, you can go back to working on things that actually do support your stomach acid, like getting into a rest and digest state of being. A lot of times when we are constantly on the go, our hormone cortisol spikes. And when that spikes, our stomach acid drops. And so we think, hey, I'm not going to the bathroom. Should I add more probiotics? Or I'm bloated. Should I add more probiotics? When in fact, it's your nervous system. You've heard me say this a lot in different podcasts, but the body does keep the score. So what that means is your body is holding on to how you perceive the world around you. And if that perception is shifted due to trauma or due to a lack of organization, if you're feeling overwhelmed in your day in and day out, the season of life you're in, honestly, guys, a probiotic is not necessarily going to be the answer in that season. Because again, the hose has a kink in it. That's your nervous system. It has a kink in it. Oftentimes I think of, since I am a chiropractor here back in Virginia and I adjust a lot of infants post-birth, a lot of people will say, why would you adjust a baby after birth? They're so new into the world. They don't have any problems. And I like to remind people, in fact, they just went through a very natural, yes, but a very traumatic process, the birthing process, and their body remembers that birthing process. And so sometimes when you see even an infant who is colicky, gassy, fussy, digestively off, the answer is not just give them more probiotics. The answer is typically, not always, but typically work with their nervous system and their mother or father's nervous system, because nervous systems tend to, jive off of each other. And so a lot of times it's going back to the nervous system and not just trying the latest probiotic out there. So when I get this question of like, hey, is the seed probiotic going to help my chronic constipation? What do you think of it? Gosh, the answer to them is just so much more complex than yes or no. It goes back to, what is the daily, energy or vibe that your body is going through right now in this season? What's the daily lifestyle routine that you have down? Let's talk about that first. Let's talk about if you're resting and digesting, if you're slowing down to chew your meal. Let's talk about that first. I know this specifically being a mom of two younger kids, that a lot of times it doesn't matter how clean my meal is. It matters where my nervous system is with everyone else in the room, because I'm very good at reading the room and seeing what everyone else's emotional state is. And if I carry that too much, that could be a beneficial characteristic. But if I carry that too much, guys, I'll get constipated. And I'm a gut girl, and I do this. I know this. I know the research behind it, but I'm sharing with you. It could be something that simple. Okay. So yes, we look at stomach acid, which is what I just went in depth about. We also look at bile flow. So this is a really interesting topic, because I think a lot of you listening are probably thinking like, what is that? What is bile flow? I don't even know what bile is, and how does it affect my constipation? And why would I worry about that and not just get the hottest probiotic off the market? So let's talk about bile flow for a second. So bile is actually produced by the liver, and it's released by your gallbladder, and it actually plays a huge role in digestion, in case you didn't know. It also plays a huge role in your bowel movements. Okay, so it helps break down fats, which is so interesting to me. I don't think that we actually realize that. And so I'll stop there just to say it helps break down fats. And a lot of times when we have these issues with our liver and our gallbladder, sometimes we jump so quickly to, one of the hottest surgeries out there is like, hey, let's just remove the gallbladder. And there is a time and place for surgery. I'm definitely not against medical intervention. But sometimes I think we do pull that card a little bit too soon. I've heard people say, well, my doctor said you don't need it anyways, so let's just remove it. Ooh, when I hear that, I'm like, wait, what? You mean we were designed with an organ that we don't actually need? That I have a hard time believing that. I don't actually think that that is factual, guys. We are given every ounce of what we need. Now, sometimes there is a need to remove it if, things are too far along, if damage has been done, and if you cannot, get a grasp on it with using, let's say, just like some basic interventions. Yes, I do get that. But that quite frankly, any physician that I think would, if I was the patient and I was walking into a doctor's office and I heard that, I would run, because if that's what they're basing this off of, that is not factual, right? The gallbladder actually has a huge purpose. It doesn't necessarily produce all of our bile, but it does hold a large part of it. Basically is the container for our bile. And so let me go back to bile does help break down fats. It also acts as a natural signal, though, to keep things moving through your intestines. And so when bile is low, you can experience things like the sluggish stools or constipation. Sometimes I feel like people will say it like constipation that doesn't fully resolve. I've heard it that way from clients before, which in other words, let me say it this way, a feeling like you can't completely empty. That's another way to put it. Bloating especially is a common one. Definitely after having meals that are higher in fat. And so, okay, those are symptoms, right, of having low bile. And I think, again, what most people do to fix that is they either look to surgery because they've been recommended it. Sometimes they look to things like Miralax, which I hear all the time. Hey, I've been prescribed Miralax, even magnesium, coffee enemas. I've even had people be recommended to try coffee enemas. And I'm not saying any of that's bad. In fact, Diane and I, recommend or see clients do really well on magnesium. I myself take magnesium, but I think we often just overlook, like, have you actually ever addressed the true root cause? Like these symptoms are actually signals that you might need to dig a little bit farther and really get to the root of it. So when we talk about constipation, I think the bile is often not talked about at all. And we then wonder, hey, I was put on Miralax and it worked for a little bit, but now I've been on it for years and I'm not seeing improvement. In fact, I'm taking the Miralax and it's now not even working at all. And so what is happening, right? And so I like to say it this way: bowel is like turning the conveyor belt on. That's a good way to put it. So if you're turning the conveyor belt on, you're getting motility, you're helping that movement, you're getting things moving in the right direction. And so if that conveyor belt is broken or not moving, you're going to keep struggling. You're gonna have stagnation. You're gonna have the symptoms. And then if you want to go a little bit deeper on this topic of, okay, so if bile is low, where does it usually come from? And I've kind of touched upon this, but I'm going to be very direct with you right now. Some of the things that it can come from, I'm going to go back to the nervous system because this is very factual. Low bile can come from chronic stress that is not necessarily addressed. We all have stress in our lives. This is factual. It's what do you do about the stress? Do you have a appointment with yourself every single day to actually take a minute, understand what you're feeling in the body, what your body is holding on to it? How do you hold on to it? How do you versus I hold on to stress? And then what can we do to release that chronic stress? And so for a lot of people, that could be through prayer or meditation, through exercise. I know for my spouse, exercise is like mandatory for him. Like his time in the gym is his time, and that is for him to deal with chronic stress. For me, a lot of times I'm a woman, I'm I would say very connected to my community. So for me, it's through community. It's through very close friendships and groups that I have come over the years to know and to trust, to where I can actually talk out some of my stress. Sometimes just talking it out. For some people, it's journaling. That helps you get that stressful energy that is just building up in the nervous system and shutting you down. It helps you release it. And so whether that's with a good counselor, therapist, a friend group, a Bible study group, or a journal, or, whatever it is, guys, this is a must. I feel like it needs to be talked about more. I think sometimes we think of stress management as like a privilege, but it's not, guys. It is an absolute must. And when you don't deal with that, you absolutely can see chronic stress become a problem in the body through lowering your bile and then adding to the constipation. Again, I've mentioned low stomach acid once before, because when we don't deal with that chronic stress, we do then start to see low stomach acid trickle into the picture. And when we have low stomach acid, we are not breaking down our food. We have food stagnation, where food just sits in our stomach and in our colon. And then we wonder why we have like pressure in our abdomen. We wonder why we kind of feel or look like we're pregnant when we're not. As women, I hear that all the time. Like, I look like I'm pregnant. By the end of the day, I am so bloated and big. And my response back is, okay, that's not a probiotic problem. That is that as you're putting food into your system, digestion is so sluggish that it just keeps piling on and piling on and piling on. So at the end of the day, of course you're miserable. Of course you're bloated. Of course you have abdominal discomfort, right? And then there's other things like just poor digestive signaling, which some of you might not even know what that means. So I'll break it down. That could be like your pancreas is under functioning with putting out enzymes that help you break down fats and proteins and carbs. There's enzymes that your pancreas makes called lipase, which breaks down fat, amylase, which breaks down carbs, and then protease, which breaks down protein. And if there is poor signaling, that can also, be the bigger problem versus a probiotic. And that can be one of the reasons why bile actually gets sluggish. And some of that poor digestive signaling, if we want to take it even a step farther, can go to not eating enough protein in the diet. Actually, we see a little bit more of this poor digestive signaling in people that are more vegan or vegetarian. And I'm not against that. We actually have a lot of clients that are vegan and vegetarian, but it's knowing how to do it right. There's a huge difference between just deciding tomorrow I'm going to, become vegan or vegetarian and not actually doing, I think, your research on how is it intentionally done, because there is intention with how you cook, your food, how much you're eating in one serving. Like, yes, beans and rice, I'll hear a lot of people say, well, isn't that a complete protein? Absolutely. But if you're eating a huge dinner that is beans and rice, guys, you're not digesting all of that in one sitting. So it's like knowing how to do it intentionally. It's knowing what vitamins you're not getting from the choice of not eating animal meat, and how do you intentionally get it in with plant foods. You can, but it needs to be intentional. And then maybe on some days, how do you supplement in case you need that additional supplementation? And so that's one thing to recognize. But then also blood sugar dysregulation can affect some of this poor digestive signaling. So again, it may not be that you just need a probiotic. It can be that bile issue. And if you are not taking care of your blood sugar, so if you are someone that has a very high carb diet, you're essentially probably at a higher risk for having blood sugar dysregulation, because remember, when we eat carbs, it is just they're great for energy, right? But it's like this roller coaster of up and down energy as I just eat carbs all day long, versus having the solid protein and fat in my diet that will help regulate my blood sugar, more of that steady line that we look for. And so maybe it's that you have a higher carb diet. Maybe it's that you skip meals. I actually talk to a lot of clients who have constipation, and they say, yeah, I mean, I intermittent fast quite a bit. And I'm not against intermittent fasting. Again, absolutely, it has its benefits. It has its time and place, though. And so if you are someone whose nervous system is on the, let's say like running from a bear mode, that sympathetic mode, that like always on the go mode. If that's you and you're skipping a large chunk of your meals throughout the day, guys, you are just driving cortisol up, and then you're basically fasting. And that is not, those two don't go well together. Fasting on high cortisol does not go well together. So then you get this blood sugar dysregulation. And if that goes on for a long time, then you do have constipation issues, because it does affect the bile flow. And so I think that this whole bile flow is just something we don't talk about, you know what I mean? And so again, just that under eating can be a huge problem. And I see that a lot for women, to be quite honest. And then last one I think I see a lot is this was kind of more when I was younger. I remember like this low fat craze where everyone was like looking for low fat this and low fat that. And I think it's not as popular today, but I do think that a lot of people avoid eating their fats. Now, some people will need to watch fats if they have had their gallbladder removed, or if they have a gallbladder that is highly under functioning. Yes, you want to be intentional with how much fat you're taking in, but I also want to remind you that we need fats for our hormones. So a lot of time, women, as we age and we naturally lose some of that natural hormonal production, if we avoid fats, we are underserving ourselves a lot. And it's knowing what is the right fat, right? A lot of times if you're eating out, you are not getting the right fat, because it's going to be mixed with unhealthy inflammatory oils and like probably high cream, that kind of thing. But if you're actually seeking out healthy fats, I think of a lot of like nuts, like macadamia nuts, Brazil nuts. I also think of like avocado, good healthy oils like olive oil, avocado oils. I think of, coconut, olives themselves. Like these are great healthy fats. And then I think it's also sometimes knowing your genetics, if you can handle those fats. But ladies, we do definitely need healthy fats in our diet for our hormones, for our bile in general. And so when someone tells me that they've had constipation for years, honestly, I'm not just thinking probiotic, add the probiotic. This is how complex it can get. So if you're listening to this, I don't expect you to digest clinically everything that I'm saying. But if one of these sounded like it hit home for you, then this, the Gut Girls, what Diana and I have created is an amazing place to actually get to the root of your chronic health problems. We work with you along with your practitioner to help you really get to the root. And that's what it is. I mean, it's taking the deep dive. It's wanting to get the actual answer and not just what I think social media is saying, like, hey, try this probiotic, try that probiotic. I don't think that's going to get you really where you want to get. And then the other thing I've seen on social media is this concept of like overeating fiber. A lot of people I've seen, in fact, someone asked me the other day, like, what do you think of coconut cult? And guys, I just looked at them. Like, I was like, I actually don't even know what that is. And it's interesting. So then I obviously looked it up, and, if that's you, if you're like, well, I'm actually curious to know what you think about coconut cult. I think we go to it because it's like, we are so busy in life. And so when someone's like, hey, you need to get, let's say the latest out there is people are saying you need to get 40 grams of fiber in a day. Okay. No way are you going to go from, the average person gets like 12 grams of fiber in a day. So like, no way are you going to go from the average intake of 12 grams of fiber a day to 40 and feel good. Like, you're going to be bloated. You're going to be miserable. You're going to have abdominal pain. It's going to be terrible. So like, don't do that. Don't follow that trend. Yes, there is truth in getting higher fiber. And yes, there is truth that as you go through menopause, increasing your fiber up to about 40 grams could be beneficial. But guys, that takes a ton of time. And that's because fiber acts as a binder. So it can help bind to some of these effects, like toxic effects in our body, and it can help regulate us and really excrete some of those so that we feel most optimal. But you're not going to go from what you're eating right now to that 40 grams and not have terrible gas, terrible bloating, terrible pain. So when I think of coconut cult, I think, okay, this is probably, in today's day and age, a way that people are trying to get a lot of fiber in quick. Like, hey, I don't have time to actually cook my meals, but I've heard that I need to get fiber. So can I use this coconut cult to get my fiber in? And my response would be, something like that is so concentrated that if you're not used to getting in even the simplest of fiber, then you're probably not going to handle that well. So I like to take people back and say, no, let's not try to like just follow all these trends. Let's go back to the basics of, first of all, you can't handle that much fiber in one sitting. So it is meant to be spaced out throughout the day. Unfortunately, guys, there's not really a big way around this. Like, you can't just have, in fact, I've had clients before in the past have like high fiber bread or high fiber cereal. And then they are like, oh my gosh, I'm miserable. I can't handle fiber. And then they shut down and they don't go after fiber. And I have to explain to them, well, it's because you had this huge high fiber ingredient, whether it's cereal or bread or whatever you found out there, coconut cult, and you jammed it into one meal. Okay, no, you've got to take the fiber and spread it out throughout the course of the day so that your body can take it all in. So start with something simple like some chia seeds in the morning. And know that seeds also need to be sprinkled on. Don't start with like a base of chia seed and think that you're going to handle it well. If you are not used to having fiber in the diet, you start with a little amount, sprinkle it on, and then work your way up over time, and know that that is your end goal, but you are not going to get there right away. And I'm not even recommending that everyone get up to 40 grams. Honestly, I recommend at the base level, start with about 25 grams of fiber. Like, that's your, like, start there. Maybe you're at 10 or 12 grams, slowly over time, work your way up to about 25. See how you feel there. Every GI tract is different. See how you feel there. And then from there, you can always adjust accordingly. But fiber is tricky. Diana and I love the Designs for Health Paleo Fiber RS powder. It's awesome. But again, it's probably one of the most tolerated fibers that we use. And again, though, I tell my clients, start out with an eighth to a fourth of a scoop of that. There's also Heather's Tummy fiber. It's an acacia fiber that's out there on the market. And again, it's like start with a tablespoon of that. You know what I mean? Like if that, maybe it's a half a tablespoon of that for you. Each fiber is determined based on, in our memberships off of your GI map. And really it's very intentional as to what your gut needs in that season. And so it's introducing it at the right time in the right quantity. And so there isn't a one size fits all out there. It's all really about diversity. And that's diversity over time, right? And so if you've heard, I'll kind of just wrap that part of this podcast up. Like if you are someone who's heard like, hey, seed probiotics are all the rage, let me go try them. Or fiber is all the rage, let me go try it. I would say no. I mean, they even have like fiber chips out there. Even like it's interesting because I was just visiting my family and my sister was like, Angela, I'm eating like all the protein stuff, like protein chips and protein. And I'm like, oh gosh. I mean, okay. I love that you hear this. I love that you at least have heard that protein is essential, but gosh, to then buy everything that's like protein this and protein that and fiber this and fiber that, that's not how it's going to work. You've got to go back to the basics that Diana and I teach, honestly, in the basics guide, which you can find on our website for free and download it, where it's like, go back to just eating. Use your hand, a palm full of protein, a palm size of protein with every meal, a loose fist of vegetables with every meal, a cupped palm or a fourth of a cup of carbs with every meal. Like we teach you how to do that. And then using the GI map, we can be very intentional with how much protein and fiber you need because there are markers on the GI map that tell us about protein and fiber. And so I love taking that route and really getting to know you individually. Like Diana has said before, when people ask her, like, how do you eat? She says, well, I eat for my gut. Well, how do you know that if you don't take the time to journal and know the body's signals that it's giving you? When you are bloated, when you are gassy, when you are constipated, guys, if you have chronic diarrhea, you know what I mean? Like those are the signals that your body's giving you. And if you don't know what that means, that's where the GI map can help educate you. Like this is what your body's actually been trying to tell you that you need. And then you can actually feel confident and take that step forward versus just what you see the craze is on social media. So that's my, I guess, soapbox on coconut cult. I honestly didn't even know what it was. I had to look it up. And then let's go into one other topic that I think, to clear up a little bit of confusion, I had wrote this down, was IBS versus IBD, because a lot of people, it's interesting to me that when I have consultations with clients, they'll say like, I've been told that I have IBS or IBD, and they don't know the difference. And then I'm like, but have you been diagnosed? And they're like, well, no, I've just been told. And I say that with quotations if you're not watching, like I've just been told. And so let's go into what this means. Okay. So most people, like IBS is irritable bowel syndrome. So it's considered functional. It's more like you have symptoms like bloating, constipation, diarrhea, abdominal discomfort. But when you run standard tests, often tests come back normal. So often labs come back as quote normal. Okay. And so that's kind of like IBS. And so maybe that's where if your doctor has told you you have IBS, it's because your labs might be normal, but you have all these symptoms. Okay. So that's why that term gets thrown around. IBD, on the other hand, is inflammatory. So these include things like Crohn's and ulcerative colitis. And this is where there's actual damage and inflammation in the tissue. A lot of times we hear that Crohn's and ulcerative colitis are more of an autoimmune condition. Okay. So those are the differences. But here's what I want you to understand. Just because something is labeled IBS, it does not mean it's not real. So again, when someone says they've been told they have IBS, but all the labs look normal, I think a lot of people walk away and they don't take that seriously because they're like, well, I've been told it, but nothing's showing up. And honestly, my doctor doesn't necessarily know what to do with me. Maybe they just put you on Miralax. It's kind of confusing from what I hear clinically. I would say this, what I see clinically is IBS is often the early signal to IBD. It's the body saying like something is off. Remember, I just said this, like the body is giving you constant signaling of what it needs. We just often don't listen, number one. Or number two, we listen and we go to the doctor, but no one has the answers because it's not yet a actual diagnosis, right? So it's like, hey, try to manage it until it becomes a diagnosis, and then we know what to do with it at that point. And so if those patterns are ignored long enough, right, then it progresses. So if you've ever been told that everything looks normal, but you don't feel normal, guys, I want you to know that there is more to the story. And a lot of times when I work with clients who have or have been told they have IBS or actually been diagnosed with IBD, there's something else going on. There is something else going on in the gut. Yes, we know there's inflammation. We know there's bloating, like I said, but there's something else going on, whether it's that bile issue that I just talked about, whether it is a stomach acid issue, like I also just talked about, potentially chronic stress not being dealt with. Guys, there is a deeper issue to it. And a lot of times we just, I think, sum it up of like, this is me. This is just how I show up in the world. I have to constantly look where the bathroom is. I can't go anywhere without knowing where the bathroom is. I can't enjoy holidays and events because of my IBD. I just want you to know we have served many clients who are on the other side of that and actually do enjoy those events and those holidays, and they can leave their house and not have to know where every bathroom is. And it's by getting to the root of the issue. And that has to do with many of the topics I already discussed, but also knowing what foods. This is like another, I guess I would say like social media craze is like knowing what foods are good for you. Even if you see a Instagram post out there that says these are the top 4 gut-friendly foods, I mean, yes, they may be in research, right? But I think that's what we have to understand is there's not always this direct correlation with what we're seeing in research and where the individual human experience is. Okay, so we've got to meet everyone where they are and know the very individualized gut needs. And so that I want you to be very cautious with when it comes to gut-friendly foods, fermented foods, probiotics. I guess I go back to the coconut cult thing. What is it? The probiotic sodas that are out there. I mean, come on, guys, we can do better than a probiotic soda. The fact that probiotics themselves, here's my thought on that. The fact that probiotics themselves, even in a very, let's say, organized, well-designed lab that has to grow and cultivate these probiotics and nurture them and put them into a capsule so that, let's say, it leaves the lab with 300 billion CFUs. That's how you measure how many probiotics are in a supplement. Let's say it leaves the lab with that many, which is a very high dose. By the time it gets to you, not all 300 are there. Not all 300 are there. And that was from a lab who knows what the probiotic needs to survive and grow. And so when you throw a probiotic into a soda can, and like, it blows my mind to think, you guys actually think you're getting probiotics that way? Like, do you really think that? I mean, I'm not saying this to like pop your bubble, but like true fact, like let's really like tell it how it is. So again, I think this just goes back to some of those hot topics that people ask me about. And I'm like, let's talk about it if you really want to know the answer. And so then this brings me to another hot topic that we'll kind of discuss here is the gut-brain connection in Alzheimer's. So maybe this is where I'm at in my life. I am 40 years old. And, this is like I guess people call this like midlife, right? What happens, I think what's interesting or what I'm experiencing, and maybe some of you are too, is at this stage of life, you are starting to see your grandparents, your parents, aunts and uncles, pass away. You're starting to see, like, you didn't see this when you were 20, right? I mean, some of us did. I've definitely experienced death at a young age in my family, but some of us, it's like, it's not so surrounding to us, right? It's not so surrounding. It's not like an everyday thing where you're showing up to, someone's funeral or something like that. And in your 20s, you're showing up to everyone's wedding. And I'm not making this like a sad podcast, but I just want to be real with you for a second when it comes to yes, I'm talking about gut brain connection, Alzheimer's. But so in your 40s, I think you start to see like people changing, elderly people changing, the people that you've grown up with and loved, they're getting older, they're changing, especially your parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, close family members. And what we tend to see, this is where I'm getting to, what we tend to see, guys, is a lot of brain deterioration. We see Alzheimer's, we see dementia. And so I'm recognizing this in my own life. And this is why I went off that little rabbit hole, is I'm starting to see it in my own life at the age of 40 of like, okay, so this is where people go next, right? Like, and it's really hitting me at 40 to say like, I've got to do something now. It's not that I'm going to prevent my future, whatever my future fate, but I definitely need to be educated and really understand that I can play a role, even if I'm given the genetics, even if I'm given, the genes, that put me at a higher risk for Alzheimer's. Even if that's the case, I still can play a role in this. And it goes back to the gut. Okay. So let's zoom out for a second, because gut health is not just about digestion. Yes, your gut is connected directly to your brain for all of you guys. It influences your mood. It influences your focus, your energy, your sleep. That is factual. And even your long-term brain health. Okay. So all of this is true. But there's a reason Alzheimer's is often referred to as type 3 diabetes, because it's heavily driven. Now, there's a lot of complexity to this. So I'm not doing it justice, but I'm speaking more from a gut health perspective. Okay. So know that there's a lot of other things that promote Alzheimer's, but from a gut health perspective, it's heavily Alzheimer's influenced, driven by things like blood sugar dysregulation, by chronic inflammation, and by poor detox pathways. So if you've listened to Diana and I talk enough, guys, we can do something about all three of those when it comes to the gut. And so if your gut is inflamed, the inflammation can cross into the blood-brain barrier. And if your blood sugar is unstable, it impacts how your brain functions. Guys, if you're not sleeping well, like that's probably the biggest one. Your brain doesn't have time to repair and reset. So when we talk about gut health, I want you to know that we're not just talking about bloating or constipation. We're talking about protecting your brain long term. And so this is where everything connects. And I think people are not aware of this. It all matters. Your digestion, your nervous system, your nutrition, your lifestyle, it all matters. I think when we're young, we're given a lot of grace because we're young and our body is very vibrant. It heals. I mean, gosh, I look at my 2-year-old daughter who constantly is falling right now, and here's me thinking, I'm like, oh gosh, she's gonna have a scar when she's older, and it's like gone the next day. Like her body is in massive turnover right now, like massive, and that's a blessing. We want that. As we age, it's not necessarily the case, and so I think a lot of people, if Alzheimer's runs in your family, you're like, what do I need to do about this to help set myself up possibly a little bit better? And I would say, number one would be sleep. You cannot outrun a lack of sleep. Yes, we get busy in this day and age, and I think it's kind of like pride of like, I can live off of 4 hours of sleep. I don't really think that that's the case. We need to prioritize sleep. We need to go to bed at the same time every night, wake up at the same time every day. We need to really get that deep sleep. There are seasons where that's a lot harder. And then I think you wonder, it's interesting, but as a mom of two little kids, when I think about my mental state after having kids, postpartum, dealing with all the sleepless nights, I was a wreck. I mean, honestly, emotionally, I think I cried all the time. Life seemed a lot harder. And it is. I mean, that's factual. It's factual because you're not sleeping. You're not sleeping as well. I think the best gift you can give a mom is a good night's sleep, honestly. And so sleep is huge. And then I would say, obviously, you're supporting your digestion, which if you're supporting your digestion, you're helping stabilize blood sugar. And that's also going to help your nervous system. And so It's so big, I think, just to say when it comes to the gut brain connection that we do have something that we can do about this, guys. We can work on the finding the balance in all of this. And that's hard. There are going to be some seasons, like I said, postpartum, where you're not getting a ton of sleep. And so I always say to those moms, because I personally work with a lot of moms and babies, if sleep is hard right now, nutrition needs, like, there is no exception. Nutrition needs to be spot on. You're going to need to set some hard boundaries to get some time away. Ask for help. Postpartum is one of the most crucial times to receive love and to ask for help around you, and let people step in, let people cook you a meal, ask people to come over and do your laundry, ask people to come over and hold the baby while you go take a nap. I mean, I think we don't do it enough because we feel like we're a burden, but I would say being a clinician, being a mom myself, it should actually be more supported in that phase of life. But then outside of that phase also, if you're a busy CEO and you run several businesses, I mean, so do Diana and I, but sleep is still important. Sleep is crucial. I may have several reports that need to get done, and it's 6:00 at night, and I say no, like, I'm shutting the computer off. If I'm not taking care of myself, I'm not going to be able to show up as a good, gut health coach for whoever needs me the next day. Like, I'm just not. And so it's a hard no, for the benefit of me and the client. They can wait. And so it's like setting some of those hard boundaries. And I know that's like a hard pill to swallow, but it's definitely needed to get talked about. And that honestly matters. Not skipping meals. I have a lot of clients that, I talk to that are like, I'm just so busy at work, I can't actually sit down to have a meal. Whether you want to hear it or not, like, that might be common. Okay, that's the right word, but it's not normal. Like, you are designed to eat 3 meals a day. And so if your job doesn't allot that, talk to your boss and let them know, like, I can crush this position, but I do need to have a lunch break. Like, that's the one thing I'm asking. And if they don't, then obviously seek another position if possible, or try to find some meals. A lot of times it's like, hey, have a smoothie that you could sit, maybe if it's even for 10 to 15 minutes, and drink that smoothie, lock all the doors, shut off the computer, just sit and drink that at your lunch. And then get back to work, or, walk outside over your lunch break to get some sunshine if you are someone that works inside all the time. So it's like things like that, you're going to the doctor and you're looking for the big answers, right? Like, if this is you and Alzheimer's runs in your family and you're looking for, like, okay, what do I need to do? Guys, it goes back to the basics, and it's just knowing. It's knowing the basics, and it's knowing the hard boundaries that you cannot say no to anymore. You got away with it when you were younger. You were designed that way. You were a lot more flexible in what your body could and could not handle. But as we get older, I think we get wiser. I like to say, yes, a lot of times people will come to me and be like, I don't know what happened. Later in life, the things that used to work for me don't work anymore. That's actually not a loss. In my opinion, it's not a loss. It's a waking up to probably how you should have been living, but you had grace and you got away with it for a while. This is a waking up to what you actually were designed for. And so that's kind of what I want to leave you with. And so I'm going to kind of end there. If you take anything away from this podcast, let it be this. I would say, your symptoms, they're not random. They are patterns. And when you understand those patterns, I love patterns. It's like, I dream about patterns, and the GI map gives us those patterns. And when you understand those patterns, you can start working with your body instead of constantly fighting it. And that's exactly what we focus on inside the Gut Girls, where we want you to leave with an understanding of your body. I had literally my own counselor just said this to me today, actually this morning in a session with her, where she said that someone gave her a pillow that said, if you think you're too much, try to find less. And so I'm quoting this to you because, guys, it's true even in health. If you think you're too much, if you're like, gosh, I am that person that, like, there's just so much going on, and health is just, this isn't for me. There's no time in my day to slow down, to change what I've already built, designed, the momentum of my life. I feel like I've heard it all. And I'm saying that to you because I feel like, no, guys, this is the world we live in today. And you're not You're not too much. Your symptoms, your problems, your health concerns, they're not too much. A lot of clinicians, doctors will look at you and be like, I don't know what to do with you. And honestly, it's because I think it's just the human condition, right? And we've got so out of touch with being just brutally honest at times of like, this is the human condition. We are trending in a world where the rate of growth and being able to know it all and do it all is growing so fast. And we've got to just be honest to say, like, there is a season to carry something, and then there's a season to let it go. There's a season to make changes in your life, to slow down. And as you start to get older and the body changes, it is not that you're broken. It's not that at all. It's not that your body is no longer serving you. It is honestly that you were just waking up to create a world in which your body was actually designed to live in. And that is something that we help teach you in the Gut Girls. And we do that through the use of a stool test called the GI map, because we really get to see in that test your nervous system, and we get to see the little details that you were never educated on, and you were not aware of. We get to see the gallbladder, the liver, the pancreatic triad or triad, and see how they're working. We get to see more of the inside look on the bile flow, and we get to see the diversity of your good bacteria. I mean, I just had a consultation with someone this morning that had Crohn's disease, and I mean, honestly, her good bacteria looked amazing, like so picture perfect. And so it's like, you look at someone like that, it's not that they need any more probiotic. It's not a probiotic issue. That is not a probiotic issue at all. That's an immune system issue. But if you don't know what that means, you don't know what to do with it, you're lost, right? You're trying all the things that everyone tells you to try. You're trying the fermented foods, you're trying the probiotics, and you're actually getting worse, or you're not getting better. And so I'm just inviting you today, if this podcast touched you at all, we are here for you at the Gut Girls. We understand you, we see you, and we want to serve you. So reach out to us, go to our website, book a discovery call, a free discovery, 15-minute discovery call with us, and go from there. There's also new tiers that we just put up of ways that we can work with you at all financial levels. We are so proud of that, because we do think everyone deserves to get a hand in getting healthy. And so we try to work with all of our clients at different financial needs financial levels. And so, guys, it was my pleasure being on here today, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day, and I can't wait to see you on the next podcast.